Alright, hello guys. In this video, we're going to be talking about our weekly forecast from February 23rd until March 1st. Now, before I get started with this video, though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends, family, and social media. Let's get right into things. Now, first things first, here was our forecast from last week. From the 16th through the 23rd, this is what we were predicting. Mostly cold there for the Rockies. Southwest and southeast warmth, and then equal chances there for the East Coast. I was not too sure what the temperature pattern was going to look like on the East Coast. It looked very volatile. So let's take a look at what actually happened in 3, 2, 1. And as you can see, the Rockies were definitely cold. The Southwest was definitely warm, and then the Southeast was definitely warm. I think that equal chance forecast for the Northeast and the Eastern United States really did end up panning out. It was kind of slightly warm in some areas and then slightly colder than normal in some areas. So it really ended up being just very close to normal. So I'm very happy with that call. Now let's get into this week's forecast though. We're going to start talking about that precipitation forecast here. Again, from the 23rd until the 1st, Sunday to Sunday here. So we're going to be talking about our below average precipitation regions first off. And we have one here for the west coast of the United States. And this has been the theme here for a couple weeks now, and this is going to be in our first layer, slightly below normal precipitation, which is going to be on paper, might not be too noticeable, especially in these types of regions, but really on paper you definitely will be a little bit below average. Now we're about to move on and start adding layers to this. We actually have 3 layers of below average precipitation, and then eventually we'll start talking about our above average precipitation regions. But first things first, here's our second layer here of below average precipitation, and you can see for the coasts of Oregon, Northern California, through some of those mountains there in California and Eastern California there, and then Southern Washington alike. We all have that medium shade of brown there, indicating the more moderately below average precipitation amounts there. And let's go ahead and add another layer, and this is going to be our third layer of below average precipitation. This is where it's going to be well below average precipitation, and in these areas you could expect that this probably means there will be none from the 23rd until the 1st, or very, very minimal at that. So we're expecting far, far below normal precipitation for these regions. Now let's go ahead and talk about our second area of below average precipitation, and this one's going to be from Texas up through Oklahoma and through portions of the Deep South like Louisiana, Mississippi, and then up through Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina, and then up through DC, Maryland, Delaware, and a bit of New Jersey as well. So this one actually takes up quite a large area, but it's only going to be that first layer, and we're not even going to have a second layer above that. So it's only our first layer of below average precipitation, which again means on paper you will definitely be below average, but really, you might not notice it a lot, I wouldn't say. Now we're about to move on where we're going to start talking about that above average precipitation, where we could be expecting more precipitation than what is typical for a week in this time of year. And we actually have 3 of these regions, and this is going to be our first one, and this is going to be for Nevada, Utah, and then in through a little bit of Colorado, very, very small corner there. And then we see portions of Arizona and New Mexico as well. And again, only our first shade here. In these areas don't typically expect a lot of precipitation. So, it will probably be a little bit more noticeable for these areas that it's a little bit above average. We are expecting a storm to come through and bring a bit of precipitation. Let's add our second area of above average precipitation here. And this is going to be for areas in Colorado, through into Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, in through Michigan, and then you can see on the East Coast there also this extends into Pennsylvania and New York as well. This is the track we're expecting a winter storm to take as we head later into the week. I'm going to talk about that in the special note segment of the video, but we are expecting a winter storm for the Midwest and the upper Midwest, and that's actually going to head into the Northeast as well. Now, to add our third and final area of above average precipitation here, this one's going to be for Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. And we're also expecting a bit of a storm system to move through these areas, which was going to lead to above average precipitation. So you can see we have 3 areas of slightly above average precipitation. The overall theme this week is drier than normal. Most areas here are more dry than normal, as opposed to more wet than normal. And we only have a few slightly above average regions here, but on the West Coast, very, very dry week coming up. And the most exciting thing coming up, I would say, is that winter storm there for the Midwest and up through the Great Lakes, and then eventually into the Northeast. Now, we're about to start getting to your temperature forecast, where we're going to talk about who could be above average temperatures and who could be below average temperatures. I'm very excited to present that to you guys here. All right, now first things first, we're going to be talking about that above average temperature region here. So for North Carolina, Virginia, areas that have just recently seen snowfall, we're going to be dealing with some slightly above normal temperatures here. And then up through West Virginia, Maryland, D.C., Delaware, all the way up through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and all of the New England states as well. We're all going to be dealing with some slightly above normal temperature conditions there. Again, some areas more noticeable than others, but really it's going to be more slight than anything. Let's add our second area of above average temperatures here, and this one's going to be for Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and a bit of Minnesota as well. We're going to be dealing with some slightly above normal temperatures for these regions. It's still going to be very cold. That's how it goes in the upper Midwest. It's going to be a little bit above average, but really that doesn't mean a lot because your average is whatever, negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit. I know that's an exaggeration, but I mean, it's very, very cold region up there, very harsh. So when you see above average, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be warm by any means whatsoever. Now let's add that third region of above average temperatures, and this one's only going to be for California and then in through Nevada as well. So this one's going to be a pretty small area alike. So we have three regions of above average temperatures. This week has been a pain to forecast, been a lot of smaller regions scattered around. And then here's our below average temperature region. And you can see this one's actually quite big. So this one's finally kind of a more definitive area of some sort of anomaly. We're going to be dealing with some below average conditions for all of these regions, from the Rockies down through the Four Corner states into the Central Plains in Texas as well, Louisiana, deep south, through Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, back up through Missouri and into the upper Midwest as well. Again, that area that we're expecting that winter storm. We also might be dealing with some slightly below average temperatures as well. So it's going to be pretty cold and snowy up there for the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes regions as well, depending on where you're at, obviously. Again, in the special note segment that's coming up very shortly, we are going to talk a little bit more about that winter storm that we are expecting during this week. Now, we even have a second layer here of below average temperatures, and this one's going to be for Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and all the way up through Wyoming. So basically there for the Southern Rockies, we are going to be dealing with some below average temperatures, and in this second shade, it's going to be a lot more noticeable than in the lighter shades. So I'm definitely feeling that's going to be the highlight of the cold for this week is within those Southern Rockies. Again, Wyoming, Utah, and in through Colorado and a bit of New Mexico as well in those Rocky Mountains. Now we're about to move on to the special note segment of the video where we're going to talk about a winter storm and then maybe even some very cold air that might be on the way towards the end of the week. All right, and for your first special note, this is going to be that winter storm that I told you guys I'd be talking about. I made that video yesterday on Saturday. That was the morning time video there that I made. It was for this winter storm, and it was a little bit of a precursor to it because this storm is not coming up until the 25th, and it's going to last till the 27th. So we have a little bit of a ways to go. I might be making a follow-up video for that one, but it's definitely looking like we will have a winter storm for at least some regions within this blue area. It could be further south or further north, so I've just kind of made this blob, but I really think it's going to be on the northern edge of that, and Chicago might be left minimal impacts, as well as northern Indiana. But the Canadian model and the European model have hinted at those areas seeing more impacts, so I had to kind of open it up wider and just kind of make it a bigger area there. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. I'm thinking a general 8 inches is possible, maybe even some areas getting 10 to 12 inches. It just depends on how intense this storm looks as we move forward. But definitely expecting a winter storm for these areas. And again, even later on in the week, I think it could be moving into the northeastern United States and bringing them some wintry impacts as well. And for your second and final special note here, a possible big cool down from the 27th of February, lasting in until March 1st here, possibly a very major cooldown here. The models have hinted at this, and they haven't really been good at pinpointing these cooldowns, so that's why I've said possible cooldown. It's really had to be broad with it because the models have struggled with this type of situation. But for right now, they're definitely showing it, so a possible big cooldown on the way towards the end of the week. Looking pretty potent too. It could be one of the more potent ones of the year if it does pan out, at least the way the GFS was showing it. The GFS tends to show these types of things and then not have it happen, but again, we're thinking the possibility is definitely there. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and social medias, and I will see you guys in the next video.